Hi, welcome to the Israel First television program from our studios in Jerusalem. Great to have you from all over the world. We appreciate you joining us today for news and behind the scenes of what's happening in Israel. And today is a very special program. It is our 200th program of Israel First. So very special, and it's great to have you with us. Now, we're going to be reading from the scriptures to start the program off. Nathalie, we're going to be reading from Daniel chapter 7 to give us a preface, to give us an understanding, a bit of background as to what's happening in the world. Now, it says in the book of Daniel, this is chapter 7, I'm reading from 19 to possibly to 23, we'll see how we get on. Then I desired to know the truth about the fourth beast. Very important in these days that we know the truth, which was different from all the rest. So this is something very, very different from all the other kingdoms that have been on the earth. Exceedingly terrifying, with its teeth of iron and claws of bronze. And it devoured and broke in pieces and stamped what was left with its feet. And about the 10 horns that were on its head, Daniel says, and the other horn that came up, and before the 3 of them fell. The horn that had eyes and a mouth that spoke great things, and that seemed greater than its companions. In other words, bigger, stronger, more mighty. And as I looked, the horn made war with the saints and prevailed over them until the Ancient of Days came, and judgment was given for the saints of the Most High, and the time came when the saints possessed the kingdom. So there's a timeline in this. And thus he says, as the fourth beast, there shall be a fourth kingdom on earth, which shall be different from all other kingdoms. It's going to look very different. And it shall devour the whole earth. In other words, it's going to be global. That's going to be one of the main aspects of it. Is going to be the globalists are behind it, and trample it down and break it into pieces. Now, one of the key things that you need to know, there's a lot of things in the mainstream media about Israel, about what's happening here, and particularly with regards to the protests. But one of the main things you need to know is that we are living, and this is across the world, this is global, this isn't just in Israel, but we're living in an era of surveillance and digital control. Surveillance, digital control. And we have a one world government that is operational. This has been operational for a while. Hence the reason that all the countries in the world, when they had the alleged COVID pandemic, all did the same thing at the same time. Some people call it the New World Order. Some people in politics call it the New World Order. The world government, it's a world government. So Israel isn't controlled by the Knesset or by the president or by the lawmakers. It's controlled by the one world government through the Knesset. Now, the real organizations are organizations who are in charge, such as the World Economic Forum and the World Health Organization. And part of the surveillance and digital control are a number of, like it says in Daniel, teeth or horns. There's the DNA database, which and the PCR test. There's the digital currency, the one world currency, because that's what it is. The digital currency means that it can be a one world, it can quickly, because it's digital, transfer to a one world currency. Electric cars, which control can be taken over them. The only reason that they're promoting the electric cars is they can take over them. They can control them. The promotion,
which means that when you say that, is like when they want this city with 15 kilometers radius, isn't it? Is like when you have an electrical car, is like they will put some limits on your car. So it's like you won't be able to control your car in a certain way. You can, but only for the 15 kilometers radius, which is just amazing. You know, if you remember, we've done a program with Mobileye, and which is like having also the cars who are like can drive themselves and all of that, which is part of the game. When I was speaking with the man who has the brain behind that in Israel, because it was a startup and is a very big company now, and we were speaking together, and I said, you know what, I love driving because it's like there is a sense of freedom and, you know, all these things. And he said to me, this is much better to have a car who can drive yourself. And it was like really cutting my freedom. And this man was very pleasant, but when we touched about the freedom, he was somebody else. And at that time, I didn't realize all the things that was happening. But I really felt like, whoa, there is a limit that they are putting there. And I feel like, wow, I don't know, there's like freedom, they don't like it. And now we can see what's happening. And this was like here in Israel, you know, the heart of the world.
Yeah, and this is why Israel is Israel first, because it's first to have these kind of things happening. And it's interesting that the autonomous car was developed in Israel. I know there's other ones around the world, but it was developed, the Mobileye one was developed in Israel. Now, so there's a one world government, and we've got different aspects of it, pieces of the puzzle. Now, censorship of the media, the 15-minute city, as Nathalie said, restrictions on movement, that as Nathalie was saying, they can stop you, the 15-minute city will be able to...
15 minutes, sorry, I was thinking 15 kilometers, you're right, it's 15 minutes.
15-minute city, they call them 15-minute city. You will be restricted on where you can go and what you can do, through surveillance and digital control, and surveillance cameras and all the system that they're using to control people. And this is all part of the new world order, the one world government, which we're seeing in Israel.
Mm-hmm. And that we can see already in action in China too.
Right. So this is where we're at. The book of Daniel, the one world government. This is what's happening. This kingdom. Now, coming back to the global currency, Israel is following the globalists in many of the areas, perhaps all, in fact. But one of the areas that it's following is in the digital currency. The Times of Israel has reported just this week that the banks of Israel, Norway and Sweden have done a model hub for digital currency payments. The Bank of Israel shared results of the joint cross-border current central bank digital currency, the CDBC, research project, which paves the way for potential issuance of digital shekels. Bank of Israel has concluded this test, which has been called, listen to this, it's been called Icebreaker. The Bank of Israel has been working with these other banks and has looked at the CBDC, how to put it into operation.
When you see, we need to know CBDC is like the current, how do you say it? It's like digital currency.
It's the digital currency, yeah.
The bank for the digital currency. Central bank digital currency, isn't it? Yeah. It's important because it's like we're using names and we need, it's new names, so we need to explain to the people.
Yeah. Now this is digital payments, which, by the way, is already operational across the world in various forms, such as PayPal and other digital currencies. So it's not new. It's just that the Bank of Israel is now looking at running everything through digital currency. As the digitalization in the global financial system develops rapidly, the Bank of Israel over the past few years has prepared for, listen to this, the eventual launch of a digital currency. So they're looking, it's not a possibility, it is something they are looking to do. It is something they're looking to action.
You're right, and now I realize, because I was like, why is there less and less people in the bank? Why do they make us being like, removed from the people? This is because of all of that. They are getting
everything
ready
for a digital currency.
Yeah.
Well, what does that, is that important? I mean, isn't a digital currency more useful? Well, no, not if it's used to control you. This is the whole issue from the book of Daniel, is that the kingdom wanted to control the people. Now, the CBDC transactions will be monitored. So, in other words, if you use cash, there is a freedom, there is privacy. But if you do transactions through the CBDC, all privacy, all freedom has gone. It's going to mean that every transaction is logged on the government by the government. It's going to mean every citizen is monitored with their payments. So in other words, every time you make a payment, they're going to know about it. And freedom fighters are extremely concerned in Israel about a government-controlled digital currency, which could lead to cash. So in other words, the cash will go, and it could be used to strip private citizens of their freedom and their assets. For example, if you are owing tax, it will be just taken and you won't know anything even about it. It'll just be removed. And countries who are already using government-controlled digital currency are waking up to realise the extent of government control over money, that they control your life. And if central bank digital currencies are implemented in Israel in any form or state, we are witnessing a totalitarian state. Its central bank currency would create an authoritarian surveillance state and constitute a severe overreach of government power. They would become, the government, both the money printer and bank, destroying any checks and balances on government power by Israel's financial holdings. By granting the government ownership over the root technology of money, CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, allow the government complete discretion over how and whether people can use their money, because they could decide that
That's it.
you can't use it.
You're right. And when you say that, I read an article which was about the World Economic Forum, and they were saying and I can't remember the year, but I know that they have a plan for 2030, and I think it was when they were saying 2030, you can buy like one jumper, this and that, and no more. So it's like if you want to buy more and you go to a shop, you won't be able to pay for it, because they say, okay, you bought already your jumper, so now you don't. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was about clothing, and it wasn't very much at all. So it's like they can control your life totally. It's just unbelievable.
And the freedom activists in Israel are saying the individual is sovereign, and the state has no authority to limit what a person can do with their assets, digital or otherwise. They're also saying that centralizing Israelis' financial holdings in a digital base is an urgent threat to human rights. And we're seeing this happen in front of our eyes.
Yeah. Now, one of the things so that we have to remember, very, very important, the governments are put in place to serve us, like to help the people in a nation. The government is there to serve, not to control. And like we're getting used of them having more and more place and controlling you. And this is totally wrong. They are here to serve us. And right now, they are not serving us anymore. We are becoming slaves slowly by all the governments all around the world. And we can see this is like the beast, as you say, is like, is not right.
And it's shocking that it's happening in front of our eyes. Now, another part of this control is the genetic database. President Herzog, the Israeli president, heralded the establishment of a national, this is just in the news as we're coming in the studio, a national genetic database in Israel. We previously reported on the program that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is pushing for a fully digitalized genetic record for every Israeli, which was clearly stated in a video that he did. Israeli freedom fighter Efrat Fenigerson questioned what the world's first database will be, a genetic database will be based on. And she says, is it going to be based on PCR samples? Well, the answer is yes, because during the PCR campaign, I would call it, during the PCR campaign, they were able to obtain DNA samples from any citizen who had to submit to that. In order for the COVID test to be done, you had to give a genetic sample. This was part of the process. Each PCR test requires, and still does by the way, requires the collection of genetic material, usually through taking a sample from your upper respiratory tract. In this process, a collection swab is pushed deep into your nose, throat, or nasopharynx, the space that connects between the two, collecting cells in the process. It is clear that the very process of the PCR test is done by extracting genetic information. The problem is what is happening to all this genetic information, this database? Who is guarding, who's safeguarding it, who's in charge of it, where is all this information being stored? Well, it's being stored by the government because the health ministry had to supervise the COVID tests, allegedly for health reasons. But all the data that was collected throughout the country, from the airport to people's homes, and even now as people are submitting these tests to their health, to their doctor or to their health clinic, these samples are collected and are put onto a database. Now, if they are put onto a database, there's all sorts of things that can be done with the DNA. They can be reverse engineered and used against the population through such things as experimental injections and artificial intelligence developments. There is also a medical technology which is called the Epsilon Agenda, the intergenerational creation of submissive class of genetic slaves for future control systems, and shockingly, creation of human clones. In the end, of course, the end of the day, Nathalie, the thing is, the genetic analysis for the final phase of the creation of the New World Order. This is where it's all going. The bottom line is this: massive genetic testing of populations is ethically and legally wrong, but it's all part of this control. We're coming back to the same thing. It's the middle bit of the puzzle, if you want, the key bit. It says control and surveillance, digital control and surveillance, and this is all part of that, this genetic database that they're building in Israel. And as Nathalie was saying, we're also, the 15-minute city is becoming very important and is being pushed in the media. Now, what does is the 15-minute city not a good thing for the environment? No, it's a direct threat to our civil liberties. It's planners, Nathalie, in Israel are proposing to make prison cities. They've become ghettos. That's what they are. And they control your life. They can control the area. Now, if you remember when we had the alleged COVID pandemic, we had the lockdowns and people could go a certain distance from their home in the lockdown, and there wasn't, I don't think it was so far that you could go from your home.
Was it 200 meters, 500 meters? Maybe 500 meters.
I think you could go further if you were jogging. I mean, the whole thing was very weird because why, if you're jogging, is the virus going to wait for you or go somewhere else? But anyway, and if you're jogging, how close are you to other people anyway? It was a very strange thing. But the lockdowns.
But the thing is also, if they do that, and in our psyche, is like, they've done it already and it was for a good cause. So if they do it again, it's for a good cause. Is how they use psychology so much, you know, is like all manipulation again, and it's just unbelievable. And you need to have your eyes open to be able to see all these things and love your freedom. And again, is also that we are made in the image of God, and like not to forget that. And I think this is all part, is like this system is without God, and us who are made in the image of God, not just made in the image of God. I mean, this is like amazing, but like in every cell in our DNA, we have the finger of God. It's like his name is written in our DNA. And there is few people who are speaking about that. And I read some very important and serious things. And it's been known even by the Jewish sages for a long time. They know that. You have like a scientific way of knowing the things, but you have also like an intellectual way of knowing the things, and also a spiritual way of knowing the things. So because we are made as a body, intellect, and we have a soul. So you can find the ways of God in different levels. And it's all written there. So in all the things that was said is to hide that we are made in the image of God, is to hide that God is God. By the way, there is a beautiful passage also in Isaiah 40:25, we're saying, what are you saying? I am God. And how can you work out that I am not? And we are coming into this time where if you don't serve God, you are serving another one. And if you don't know in your knower, then God is God. And again, it's not just an intellectual thing. It comes also from your heart, because you can't understand everything with your brain, because we are limited. But your knower, your soul, your knower, he knows very deep inside, yes, there is a God. And it's interesting to hear also about like there is a revival in different places in the world now. And one of the things is like, and people, atheists, are coming there and discover God, like have an encounter with God. And I think this is the thing, that we are still in exactly at the same place. You know, God is God. And who do you want to serve? Do you want to be servant and friend? Or do you want to take him out of your life and his chaos?
So the 15-minute cities, we need to examine them and say, well, whose idea was this in the first place? Because that might give us a clue as to what's going on. Well, the 15-minute cities are directly coming from the World Economic Forum, in Davos, who want us fenced off with confined with physical barriers, loss of freedom of movement, with facial recognition technology used to track where we are, loss of transport. They don't want motor cars there. And when they say they don't want motor cars, Nathalie, they mean they don't want your motor car there.
Yes.
They have no problem with theirs being somewhere, but not yours. So there's no provision in these 15-minute cities for motor vehicles. There will eventually be, you say, well, they might, you know, the ones that you've heard about, they've still got cars. Well, yes, but they will be phased out. Now, they are big brother prisons. They're like ghettos, as I mentioned before. One critic, by the way, of the 15-minute cities saying there were already 15-minute cities in Poland during the Nazis' occupation. In 1941, the Nazis introduced the death penalty for going out of the 15-minute city. Swedish journalist Peter Sweden said, 15-minute cities, listen to this, the Swedish journalist, 15-minute cities are a form of population control in the name of climate change to keep track of people's movements. We know that the globalist agenda, UN Agenda 21, which calls for the creation of wild lands, quotation marks, and the concentration of people in certain areas. And we also know that Klaus Schwab, the chairman of the World Economic Forum, is pushing this 15-minute city concept. So that gives us a bit of a clue as to what's going on behind the scenes, Nathalie, that he's pushing it. So, this isn't a good thing. China introduced, by the way, talking of China introduced a 15-minute city in Ruli City in 2021. Cleveland, Ohio is to become the first 15-minute city in the United States. Oxford, we mentioned before, in the United Kingdom, has proposed becoming a 15-minute city. Meanwhile, ex-Silicon Valley engineer turned whistleblower Aman Jabi says smart cities worldwide are being converted into open concentration camps, whilst Jerusalem is becoming the first smart city in Israel. Former Mayor Nir Barkat said this, a direct quote from Nir Barkat: "Jerusalem will be one of the world's leading smart cities." Amin Ajabi is a native of India and an engineer who worked in the Silicon Valley. He emigrated to the United States because he admired America's culture of freedom and liberty. He said, "The largest cities are toast. They're all converting to smart technology, and anyone still living there should make plans to leave." Smart cities are just being used to control people, to monitor what they are doing. It's a totalitarian infrastructure, and it's happening all over the world. For example, if you want to know some details, we've got license plate readers, smart lights, smart street poles, smart cars, smart neighborhoods, smart homes, smart appliances, all connected to 5G, wirelessly communicating with each other.
Yeah.
So, and it's being pushed. The smart technology, if you go to buy an electrical appliance from your store, guess what? You're going to be encouraged to buy a smart appliance.
Because you're very smart.
They're going to be connected to the internet, and you have a smart meter, electricity meter. All of these things are able to be controlled. As Nathalie was saying, the electric vehicle, the electric meter, all of this will be able to be controlled, the smart cities. So this is what's coming. The World Government is in operation. It's in Israel. It's putting things into practice. Meanwhile, Nathalie, everybody's looking at different things. In the mainstream media is looking at, in particular, we have protests in Israel, which is a great smokescreen. So everybody's looking at the protests. We have the concern about Ukraine, as many people do across the world. But again, it's a smokescreen. We've got the issue of terrorism in Israel. Again, a smokescreen. People are not looking at what the big issues are that are concerning surveillance and digital control. Well, it's been great to be with you. Thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate your support, don't we, Nathalie? We appreciate the people who make this possible. We wouldn't be able to come and do a 200th program if it wasn't for your financial support. And it's very easy to support us. You can go to the website, which is www.israelfirst.org, and go to the donate page. If there's any issues with donating, you'd like to do a special donation, or you want to contact us, then please contact us at our email address, which is info@israelfirst.org. Don't forget, we also have a newsletter. You can sign up and to our newsletter. That's on our contact us page, and they can get our newsletter every week, isn't it, Nathalie?
Mm-hmm.
Nathalie does the newsletter.
Thank you for all the one also who are helping us and supporting us already.
Yeah, we really appreciate everybody who's helping us, because you're making it possible for us to reach the nations with what's really happening behind the scenes. And we also just want to point out, we do a news page on our website as well, which is under the media button. You can go to that Israel News, and you can see daily, we're working very hard that you'll have a daily story from Israel about what's really happening in the land, looking across the different things, looking at all the different ways that this one world government is operational in Israel. You'll be very interested in that. And if you want to contact us and let us know where you're watching, that'd be great as well. We really appreciate that. Wherever you are in the world and you'd like to contact us, tell us what's happening in your country. We'd appreciate that. And thank you again so much for joining us. And don't forget, we're the program that looks at the land, the people, and the language.